Ian Duncan Smith's latest brainwave is likely to form a part of the Tories' election manifesto, but it does bear, I reckon, an uncanny resemblance to Ed Miliband's tough love plan for young NEETs. Those are young people not in education, employment or training. And I just wonder if anybody else is alarmed by the fact that politicians on both the left and the right seem to be going after the young and unemployed, while essentially, to some degree, leaving the older jobless to watch daytime telly. Well, before the ads, Lee said he's not against the idea of working for your benefits. He just doesn't like the idea of picking on young people. And he thinks if they are going to work, then they should be paid fairly. Lowry argued that no dole would just mean parents will end up footing the bill for many kids that are staying at home. Good point. And Tim thought that this could very well end up being cheap labour for private companies, and he reckons it will play well with voters, but will do very little to get young people back into meaningful work. What are people saying at home, Kirsty?
We have Rebecca first, on line 1.
Morning, Rebecca.
Morning, Matthew. Morning, panel.
Morning. Well, I'm guessing if Ed Miliband is keen on picking on young people who are unemployed and the Tories, that this is going to play out well with people like you, the voters.
I disagree with it. I think if they're going to put these restrictions on, they should put it across the board. So it's my phone. You know, I've been on and off the dole since sort of leaving university. I find it very difficult to get a job that's permanent, and if I have, the company's gone under. And I've been under 25, thankfully not subject to restrictions. And I think there are some people that will want to work under 25, there are people that want to work over 25, there'll be people on the dole that are going to try and swizz it regardless of what you put in. And I agree with Lee that training needs to be offered, and not just after you've been unemployed for 6 months. But, you know, it should be based on your skills that you already have or what you want to get into working, and if they can help you in any way, they should do that.
Do you find it... I mean, listen, it's not my point of view, but, I mean, it's got to be an argument worth making. You know, I mean, Tony Blair had a dream that every other school leaver would go on to university, and we've headed in that direction, although not achieved that goal. It is, some people might think, perverse that you can go all the way through your school career, then on to university, racking up enormous debts along the way, and at the end of this process, somebody is going to turn around and say to you, you're actually not qualified in any shape or form for work. What you need to do is work for almost naff all, training for a job. When on reflection, do you wish your university course, I don't know what you did, but was more work or career focused?
Yeah, they should have more training in schools and universities on how to be in the workplace. You know, they need to tell you about time management, organisation, writing a good CV and interview, just basic office or whatever industry you're in skills that you need. You know, you shouldn't just be sort of go through and pay you this amount of money just sort of dropped.
The trouble is then, Rebecca, that school becomes a training place for work rather than educating people. And the two things...
It is sometimes, though, isn't it? You already have to turn up on time in your uniform with your work. You know, you should try and bring those skills further on in your life as well.
OK. I mean, I think it's an interesting thought that perhaps schools or universities should be doing more to get people work-focused. Not sure how I feel about it.
It'd be interesting to find out how employers would... again, not the pound-gland thing, sorry to get harking on about that.
Other discount pound stores
are available.
I'm sure are available. But, there's the stretchy one, the 99p one.
It'd be interesting to find out how employers would look, whether you, as a youth, had decided, I won't do the training, I won't take the dole money, and I'll sit at home, versus the person who did the training. Do you know, even if it's not specific to their job, but they're thinking, oh, they've had a go.
Something's better than nothing.
Yeah, because obviously as an employer, when you do look at a CV, you're starting to look back through what they've done already to see if any of that is applicable to the job they're going for. So there's a plus there, potentially.
OK, Rebecca, thank you. Good luck with your career. Let's have another.
We have Jim on line 2.
Morning, Jim.
Good morning.
Do you think this policy would win your vote, sir?
Most definitely not. Unfortunately, of course, both of the major parties seem to be following this policy, so it doesn't give you a great deal of choice.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I think what's happening at the moment is that younger people are being punished at both ends of the scale, really. We've got a policy now where parties are increasing the retirement age, which is blocking off jobs for people just coming into work.
Yeah.
So there are less jobs for the young because we're having people working until they're about their 90th birthday.
Yeah.
We're punishing them because they can't get the jobs.
Oh, and there's a third layer of punishment as well, Jim, which of course is when a young person takes a job, if that job's on minimum wage and they're under the age of, 21, they are going to get paid roughly half what somebody over 21 will get for the same job, because the minimum wage is, £3.72 if you're under 21, as opposed to £6.60.
Absolutely. And of course, this is part of the overall plan, isn't it? The plan being that if we remove benefits from young people, they'll be forced into going into jobs where they're working for peanuts.
Yeah.
But didn't we all start doing jobs that paid peanuts?
Yeah.
I know I did.
It was a low, yeah.
I swept floors and I worked, cleaned bars.
But we didn't have a minimum wage.
Exactly. I think I probably got paid less than that.
We may have started off on £4,500 a year on the Surrey Mail was my first salary, which was it was about £1,000 more than you got on the dole. But you could have the opportunity to move up and get promoted. The trouble is with minimum wage is there is an argument that minimum wage has actually kept everybody's, or that most people's wages down.
One of the dangers of the minimum wage as well, with that differential where it suddenly leaps up, is that an employer might go, yeah, I'll have you until you get to that age. I'll get another young in it.
Again.
Do you know what I mean? It's like...
I think that, you can have people working for very little if they feel there's a chance that they'll move up. But if you feel that you're always going to be stuck in that job and, go to a discount employer and there's no chance to move up into management, then why would you do it?
But there are opportunities. Obviously, if you are working for a proper company, should we say, rather than a community job, then there probably are.
I just want to wrap this up. So, if you were a young person leaving school at 17 now, what would you do then, Larry? Would you go on training?
My son is 14, so if he wanted to leave school at hopefully 18, but let's say it was earlier, I would fight tooth and nail, and I would hope that I'd be strong enough to say, OK, if you stay at home, you go to a job, you go and get a job, whether that's working behind a bar,
or whether that's... do anything.
Likewise. I'd do what I did then. I left school at 16. I had the job already lined up, thankfully. I got an apprenticeship with BT back then. And when I left that job, because it wasn't good for me, I went out and found another one.
So it's only me that would be tempted into a life of crime, then? OK, great. Just telling it as it is. After the break, it's Tim with all the other headlines for you this morning, including a first glimpse at a new map of the world, how it would look if ISIS achieved their aims of establishing an Islamic superstate, and the police force that scored a frankly horrendous own goal or two with its World Cup tweets. All that and more in a tad under 4.
According to today's Daily Mail, which of these staples do people no longer see as a household essential? A television, a landline phone, or a toaster? Find out after the break. So, according to today's Daily Mail, which of these staples do people no longer see as a household essential? The answer is a landline phone.
Thank you very much. Welcome back to Tuesday's show with Lee Hurst, Larry Turner and Tim Dowling. Still to come this morning, a question we've never asked before. I want to know if you should cry in front of your kids, tears of anger or even despair. They're all going to register with your brat, so should you do your best to keep the taps turned off? 0207 173 5555, the number for your thoughts and your theories. Right now, though, Tim, it's over to you for the headlines. And I guess we're going to be kicking off with Rolf Harris.
Rolf Harris. This is in The Guardian, but of course it's on the front page of all the papers today. Rolf Harris, the entertainer, is facing a significant jail term after being convicted of indecent assault. This is
12 counts.
12 counts, 4 victims, and that includes a girl as young as 8, and also his daughter's best friend, who he had been grooming and molesting from the age of 13. The news that's coming out as well is that this is by no means the end of this, we think.
I take it... I mean, he gets sentenced on Friday, and I don't know, as somebody who's come to our country, what it's like for the other two here, but I mean, it is, without joking, it is almost every childhood entertainer that I was exposed to, short of Andy Pandy and Larry the Lamb, who were puppets, but I mean, it is a very...
It's extraordinary.
It doesn't surprise me, because I can remember what it was like being a 12, 13-year-old girl, and there would always be some friend of your parents, some guy who was a bit lechy, and I can remember encountering it all the time, and it was you know, it wasn't acceptable, but it was accepted. And this is just a celebrity end of that. And if this actually can bring an end to this belief that children are there as the playthings of some people, absolutely the right thing.
There is a call for a public inquiry into the scale of abuse of children, which so far the government is resisting. So presumably you would back that?
No, I don't think we need another public inquiry. I think it is a case for all of us to think about the culture and how we treat children. And of course there are women who abuse, but we do have to remember that a lot of these are guys doing this. And what is it about some men and their sexuality that think that they can use their power to prey on less powerful people? And they are usually young people and children, of both sexes, actually.
I find it it's a bit weird, like the News of the World fell on its sword because of the phone hacking business, you know, and the BBC trundles along. And yet this is just, you've got Jimmy Savile, Stuart Hall, Rolf Harris.
There are internal reports, there's compensation payments, certainly with regard to Savile, that are going to be made.
Who's investigating it? They're internal reports. If you're going to investigate the BBC and what went on back then, you need an outside body going in. You wouldn't, you know, we don't like the police investigating themselves, do we?
Maybe so, maybe so.
In this case, we're talking about older allegations as well. And a lot of, there's a victory for the...
Well, I don't buy that. I remember going to a drinks thing, hosted by the BBC, actually, probably about 8-10 years ago. And I remember there being a very well-known male presenter there, and he came to say hello, and just his hand went, and it was just creepy.
Okay.
His hand went down my back. I did nothing, and when I mentioned it to him, they said, oh, well, he's well-known for it.
I was just thinking in terms of historic allegations, because these were all historic allegations. But if you looked at the case of William Roach, who was cleared of all the allegations, charges made against him, at the time, a number of people, bright, brainy people, came forward and said maybe we need a statute of limitations on how far back we would allow. Some of the cases, I think, in Bill Roach were over 40 years, nearly 50 years on. Now, of course, if we brought in a statute of limitations, some of these victims would not have had justice. So I was swinging in favour of a statute of limitations after Bill Roach, and now I'm completely opposed to it.
It's about employers realising their responsibilities to protect their staff.
But some of this was happening far, far away from the BBC.
But it's still going on.
Yeah,
exactly. It's about, but it's also about, if it goes on in the workplace in particular, it's about employers who have, because you know, if you do allege sexual harassment, quite often the person who you're alleging against, it won't be their first offence, and it's because the guys at the top cover it up, cover it up, and we all have to take it more seriously.
Savile, I think there will be a reckoning now about how many people knew about Harris's reputation and for how many years.
OK, we'll leave Rolf Harris there for now, because I know both Larry and Lee have stuff to say. What else have you got for us?
This is in the Eye. It's a poll. It's a very distressing, but I have to say not that surprising poll commissioned by Newsround, which says that 1 in 5 black children fear being judged by race. And this is children, 8-year-olds, who are basically saying 21% of black children felt their skin color would make it harder for them to succeed in the future. I have to say that, you know, they are not mistaken, I don't think. This is obviously a poll about perception. This is how young black children see themselves. But I think this is a real reflection of where we're at,
Where do you
in
think
a way.
Asian children would figure?
Asian children, this is, I mean, obviously only 2% of white children felt their race would hold them back. Asian children, it's 13%.
Still significant.
Which is very, very high. Another strange part of this poll is...
they were low. I saw those figures, I think last night, it was 21%.
So 1 in 5 black children think their skin colour's going to hold, and 1 in 10 Asian, even though Asian children are soaring in schools and having a, you know, their education is their...
But they still might walk down the street some places.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
The perception here doesn't necessarily reflect attainment in any case, but it's, I think it's probably, you know, what's really happening is the way we're treating Asian and black children at school hasn't changed as much as we think it has.
Maybe.
The paucity of expectation, I guess.
But isn't that also about role models? I mean, the BBC have announced, for example, they want to get more black and Asian presenters on TV. It's about seeing people in a variety of roles from a variety of different
But they've got to get there on merit. You can't just pick somebody and say, you're going to go to...
But hang on, white guys have been hiring other white guys not on merit for decades. There's been positive discrimination going on in favour of you lot for a long time. Let's tip it the other way. I'm afraid there has.
I just say I was hired by a woman, thank you.
I'm self-employed.
Me too.
OK, very, Saddening, but not surprising study, as you said. What else do we have?
There's a new study about fathers in delivery rooms, which apparently is quite a really high number. Researchers found that 98% of fathers are now in the delivery room when
I'm
their
not
children are
surprised
born.
by that at all. Right.
And not very many.
How many of them actually want to be there?
Yeah, well, that's a different question. They, 27% of them said they felt completely useless while they were in there, which certainly rings true for me. And 1 in 10 said that they positively hindered progress of the birth by being there.
Fainting and so on and so forth. Have you addressed this issue in the book?
Yeah, I certainly recounted my first trip in there.
How were you? Were you of any use?
I was so useless. They stood me by a machine and asked me to monitor it. And you know halfway through.
Monitor the monitor.
It's a monitor. It's monitoring itself. And I was tripping over cables, and eventually they sent me out and said, "Why don't you make everyone a nice cup of tea?" So I took tea orders, and then I couldn't find the kitchen. You know, I disappeared for 20 minutes.
I reckon my only contribution is I would scream louder than the woman.
It's bizarre. It's
I
bizarre.
don't know that. I think a lot of men, it's a bit like on your bucket list, things to do before you die. Oh, I need to be at the birth of one of my children because it's some kind of extreme sport, you know?
No.
I do think that it's one of these. They've been sold this idea of this fantastic experience, life-changing, really, really important. And you're right. A lot of it is hanging around, doing nothing, being shoved out the way.
You're like me. You haven't got one, but would you want to go in?
Well, do you know what? I'd like to think that I would rock the trend and say no, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
right. Okay.
I don't think. At school, we had the film. You could see a film of a baby being born, but we were
different when it's your own.
I know.
child.
I think they were using that to put you off sex, so they weren't.
No,
nice.
they offered us the chance that you could go and see it or not, and I declined. I thought, I don't want to go in there. I did faint once in biology. They had a monkey's skull off, and
Oh, yeah,
and I woke up on the guy next to me on his shoulder like that.
They do ask you if you're likely to faint.
How do you know? If it's
That's
the
what I
first
said.
one?
I said it depends on what I'm going to see.
Yeah. Did you faint?
No, I didn't.
Excellent.
And I went back twice. So
Okay,
what
there
can I
you
say?
go. A couple more from you.
2 of those weren't his, though. I quite like this now. Do you mind?
I had the
do you mind if I
badge.
sit
I like
on
hanging
them?
around.
Some hospitals have sort of birthing galleries now. You can get the whole family. Yeah.
I've had
The
lots of
posh
my
private ones. You can have the whole family there. And the neighbours.
I've had my sister and my mother.
Got touts outside. Any spares?
There's not that much room in there.
No. Anyway, what else?
This is Nick Hancock, who's been on Rock Hall, which is literally
It's a
rock
rock,
all.
isn't it,
It's
in the North
rock all
Sea?
out there. It's 260 miles west of the Outer Hebrides, and he's trying to beat the current record of staying there, which the current record is 42 days. He's
Right.
trying to stay there for 60 days.
Right. Is he unemployed?
This is one of the training schemes.
There's not a lot to do there. He's in basically a pod, which is a converted water tank, and it's sort of lashed to the side of this rock. And he's in. You know, the biggest danger is that the whole thing could slide off into the sea.
So he's sort of nailing himself onto the rock.
Nailing himself into the rock, and he just basically, I think, in bad weather, he just sits in the pod, and when it's nice, he comes out and he has a look around.
I'm surprised it hasn't been made into a reality show.
Makes a
just
couple
yet.
of phone calls, and he's also, while he's in there, he's learning Italian and the harmonica.
Is there actually a point to it other than
To break the record.
just to break
No,
the-
he's trying to raise money for Help for Heroes.
Oh, he is. Oh, good for him. Okay. Everything's changed.
Yeah,
then.
everything's
Good for him.
changed. Isn't that nice? And today is his birthday, apparently.
Oh, okay. Happy birthday.
Yay, he's 39.
Okay. One last one.
Yeah, this is the bus shelter in Bissau, Cornwall. Apparently, Bissau's bus shelter was was falling down. It was a bit dangerous, and a local concrete firm offered to build a brand new one in its place.
Good result.
And they finished it, despite the fact that the last bus stopped in Bissau in 2008. They asked the man who ran the concrete bus shelter company why he built a bus shelter, and he said, "Well, we was hoping it might attract some buses."
Build it and they will come.
There's no real focal point to the village. We thought this would mark it out.
How fantastic.
Isn't that where you snog in bus shelters when you're a teenager?
Yes.
So there we are, they need one.
So there is a
needed a
focal
new one.
point. Yeah. Nicely done, Tim. What have you got then, Larry?
I'm going to continue with the Rolf Harris story. It's the front of the Sun. Rolf and Savile stalked Broadmoor together. There is some evidence that Rolf Harris actually visited Broadmoor with Jimmy Savile. And you kind of think, oh, you know, this kind of network, the web, you know, where they're all linked together. But, the allegation is that they were there and that Savile in particular used to go at a point in the day when women would have to be going to bed or having a bath, and they would have to undress apparently. And he would just kind of hang about while these, women are with no clothes on. And the allegation is that on at least one occasion, Rolf Harris joined him for one of these trips. The thing that really shocks me, maybe it shouldn't do, is that it says at this particular ward, women were punished. That's why they were put on this ward. And they had to undress to prove they hadn't taken anything for their rooms. And they had to undress in front of male and female staff. That sounds so inhuman. These people are mentally ill, and they're now having to remove all their clothing in front of whoever happens to be passing in a corridor. I mean, you think, goodness me, let's hope the treatment has improved.
Very sort of Victorian,
really awful
sound.
And what kind of person would want to go witness that? Just awful, really horrible.
There's a memo going around saying this is how we do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like weird.
This the allegation that the report that the two of them went around, brought them all together, was actually in the Savile inquiry report that was published last week, but of course they couldn't release this detail because Rolf's trial was still ongoing.
Another hospital story today from the Daily Mirror. 3 babies die of burns after being wiped with antiseptic. This is a very scary headline, but we need to be a bit calmer when we actually read the story. This is babies who were 2 babies. 3 babies died after being born prematurely, and then before catheters are inserted, they have to be wiped with these antiseptic wipes. And on 3 occasions, babies have died, and on quite a lot of other occasions, babies have had burns because of the antiseptic. Now, we should realise that the babies who died, the 3 were between 2005 and 2010, so it's a very long period of time. It's not happening every single week. The reason it's come out is that there's now new guidance for doctors saying use these wipes as little as you possibly can and use as little antiseptic as you can. We should, of course, remember that these babies are premature, therefore their immune systems are not properly developed yet. So it may be something in particular to do with premature babies not being able to fight off infection.
Okay.
Moving on to a story that really made my blood boil. I've lost 5 stone, but NHS still won't give me an op to reduce my 38 kk breasts. This is also in today's Mirror. Now, when I was breastfeeding with my first son, I was a 36I, and I thought that was big. It goes I, then J, then K, I think, and then double K. So she is huge.
Right.
She says that she should have this operation because even though she's lost this weight, her bosoms are still very big.
She's wanted a breast reduction, but they wouldn't get one. They said, lose weight, your bust will come down in size. Yeah.
She's appealed this because her GP says she's now got arthritis of the spine to connect to her breast. If you look at the picture of her, yes, she's lost 5 stone, but she probably needs to lose a bit more. I mean, when I got slimmer, my breast went down. That's kind of what happens. Yeah. I'm not saying there aren't some women.
There are 4,000 women a year who seek breast reduction surgery
and I have to be tough. The government announced recently there were going to be no more breast stops on the NHS.
I know.
I've had clients come to me for weight loss saying, oh, well, I want to have a breast reduction on the NHS. And the hard truth is you need to lose the weight because
But you're saying no breast reduction on the NHS at all?
No,
okay.
You lose the weight. Do you see people starving in Africa with 38 double K breasts? No, you don't. I mean, it's really tough to say it, but we have to be honest. When you've got little children who can't get operations that will help them walk, you cannot argue that somebody who losing weight is really difficult, but you can do it. And she's got a great motivator. She's got pain. So lose more weight. She's lost 5 stone. Keep going is what I would say.
It's not a bottomless pit of money, and it's better to use the money on people who are ill.
But she's in pain, but we're offering IVF to people who are not in physical pain.
That's not the same thing at all. She's in pain. She can do something about it. She can exercise and lose weight.
Okay. Okay.
I
just think the health service is there. If someone is in pain, if I see somebody in pain, you want to help them.
Surely the help is lose more weight. It's in your hands.
Okay,
I think we have to tell people if there are lifestyle changes they need to make, then you need to make them.
Okay.
Okay. Bonnie Greer, who I presume has been on this show.
She's been on this show, yeah. I'd love to have her back, actually.
The headline from the Daily Telegraph is Greer quits white male blue plaques
yes,
panel.
yes,
Now, I
English
didn't know there was a
heritage.
panel that decided who got one of those blue plaques.
Yeah.
But there
I
is.
write to him every week.
Do you?
I actually do write to them every week. So I'm trying to get a blue plaque for Liz Taylor, and they keep coming back English heritage. They say, oh, we've got this rule, it's absolutely inflexible. You have to be dead 20 years so your reputation can mature. And then I found out that Ninette de Valois, the founder of the Royal Ballet, got one within 5 years. So English heritage, I caught them out on that. But this is a fair criticism from Bonnie Greer,
Yeah,
isn't it? The panel is now exclusively white, exclusively male, and nearly all over 65.
And she says, I'm not going to be the token black woman. And absolutely, that's within her right. There's a strange comment in here about that the allegation, not just from her, but from other people who resigned from the panel, is that they're packing it with kind of celebrities.
Yeah.
Brian Cox. Does he ever do anything apart from appear on TV? He's on panels. Anyway. Peter Basil Jett, who I actually don't think is a bad choice.
Well, he's the chairman of the Arts Council, isn't he?
Yeah.
So,
And various other people, but they're saying that by having a high-profile panel, it will attract funding. I didn't realise it needed to attract funding. How much does one of those blue plaques cost, for goodness sake?
£982 to have a blue plaque created and erected. But
Why
I am
is it
offering
so
to pay for Elizabeth Taylor
Why is it
myself.
so expensive?
Well, the people that make them, they are made by artisans. You know, they don't just knock them out sort of like in a Chinese factory and bring them over here smuggled in bananas. I mean, they are the real deal.
What are they made of?
Okay.
Huh?
What are they made of?
I don't know. I mean, I know something about
You
blue
were
plaques.
larging it as the expert, and all of a
I'll
sudden...
tell you what, we've got
I want
Professor...
a blue plaque. Matthew Wright lied about it here
OK, you
today.
asked me... I will get you a blue plaque as soon as I got one for Elizabeth Taylor, OK? It's a pressing need for this.
And if you're
think
the
English...
owner of the building, can you say no
Yes,
to
you
a blue
can.
plaque?
Yes, you can. But English heritage, you know, they've done some amazing jobs. They've absolutely ruined Stonehenge, and now they're ruining blue plaques. They're building roads and visitors' centres and everything else. They need to have a sharp intake of breath, calm down, and maybe let the people decide who gets a blue plaque. Do it that way round.
Can I not say as well that do you not think that she should have stayed there?
No, because they're just using her as the...
Stay there, threaten to resign because she perceives herself as a token. That way she's still in there to open the door for
She's not the only
people.
one to go. A couple of others have resigned from the board as well.
That is always the argument. But there's no doubt that she will be used as a figurehead. See, we're not all white.
Yeah.
Got a black woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but again, she can use it to open the door
We've
for other
got
people.
Professor Lord
by
Robert
coming
Winston
out.
coming here next week, and
he's on the
he's just
panel.
been elected to the board, so we'll have a word with him.
OK, lastly, a story from me from the Telegraph. All that glisters may not be gold when it comes to Manuka honey. Do you eat Manuka honey?
I have eaten it, yes.
OK, it's this very expensive honey that's supposed to have
Doesn't
particularly...
taste like honey, really. It tastes a bit odd.
Yeah,
What's it made of, Matthew?
Manuka. Obviously.
It's supposed to have particular health
That's right.
properties. That's why it's very, very expensive,
Yeah.
up to 30
It's
pounds
New
a
Zealand,
pot.
isn't it? It comes from New Zealand.
Yes. Well, they've done some testing on a whole load of jars of what were labelled as
here
Manuka
we
honey,
go.
and of course they're not all
they
Manuka
not?
honey. The cheap stuff is Canuka honey. apparently.
Canuka honey.
Canuka honey.
Are they made from Canucks?
I don't have no idea what Canuka honey is made from. So the key is, you know, that I suppose if somebody tries to sell you like Del Boy some cheap
£30
Canuka
a jar,
honey,
isn't it, for
it's then don't buy it. Just
Okay,
make sure it's
okay.
real stuff.
OK, finally, Lee, what do you have for us?
Once again, we begin with it's a BBC this time about the police are reviewing fresh claims against Rolf Harris. Following the verdict, the Met have decided they're going to look at fresh allegations which did not form part of this trial.
More than a dozen, isn't it? I think
Yeah,
they've had
dozens more of the 84-year-olds alleged victims have come forward during the trial, some from his native Australia. So it's just going to go on and on. I don't know whether they... I know because Stuart Hall, he went back in for another
he got
trial.
retried,
I find those ones always weird because they normally give them a sentence that runs concurrent with the sentence
right.
they've already got.
That's
So I
right.
can't, unless you're going to add on more years, I don't really
Well,
kind of see
but
the
there's
point.
the element of victims getting justice, of course.
But if they're not getting justice, if you're not going to punish them
they
anymore,
get their story heard in court and
He's 84 anyway.
yeah,
they
I mean,
can-
I'm a different animal, you know. I'd want the punishment
Yeah,
piled on, and I don't
I
really get the
understand.
idea that they lump it all in and give you one sentence.
I
Because if you
understand.
did it, got sentenced, released, did it again,
You
get
do it
sentenced.
American style and just keep adding sentences. See, I've got people in American prison who've got 300 years to serve, which they're
20
unlikely to have.
25 years off for good behaviour, though. So it should be right. Yeah, so that's just the ongoing thing there. I don't.
OK.
It's weird. That whole again.
I'm sure there'll be more before the week is out as well.
Yeah. I don't know if the BBC have got anything left to repeat from the 70s now, other than the test card. I think. Do you know what I mean? It's just full of that. Then we move on to the Daily Mirror. This is about what's happening in predominantly Iraq at the moment and Syria. But the headline is a new caliphate as they pronounce it there with the H at the end. This is ISIS. I can't ever hear that without...
now, isn't it?
So Spain is going to be part of it.
And Portugal.
And Portugal.
Yeah, everywhere, as you can see from
And
the map
Russia.
there. Bits of Russia.
They're going to have quite a big war on their hands to achieve all of these goals.
And what I'll
ISIS,
say about
aren't
these people is they love a bit of sand, by the look of them, from the geography they're going for. They do like sand. This story with them, they've made some gains at the moment in Iraq. The area they've got is, it's quite sparsely populated, and there's some urban centres as well. But I do believe that this story will come. The Americans, I believe, will get involved at some point.
I think they already are.
Yeah, they've already got mission
Iran.
creep. We're going to throw a few more
Saudi
troops
Arabia
in.
gets involved, and
they're going to. It will stop quite quickly. These are a band of people, despite them saying they're well organised, this, that, and the other. They're up against an army that isn't very good, I'm afraid. I'm sorry if I offended anybody in
it's
the
also
Iraqi
divided
army.
against sectarian lines, isn't it? So, any Sunni member of the army is probably going to run or desert if faced by an invading force comprised of Sunnis.
I've kind of believed from the start of the Second Gulf War that it was long term, you had to partition it. But that would involve actually going in there and physically removing Sunnis from one area, Shias from
It would be like what happened in India with the Great Walk, wouldn't it?
But I think if you did it correctly with incentivisation rather than threatening, you could then divide it into Kurds, Sunnis, Shias. Qasar could be a free port run by the UN for the benefit of the other three nations that you've created. And then you've got dividing lines then, and then if one crosses the line against there, they are the aggressor.
Do the people themselves not have to decide if you have outside forces coming in, drawing up, redrawing? I mean, this is where we got into this problem in the beginning, isn't it? When we created these.
The problem is, if a fight broke out here now in the studio, the first thing we have to do is separate people, otherwise the fight continues. And I'm afraid this is going back too long. It's in their psyche that they have to go against each other. Not all of them. You're going to have Shias and Sunnis that marry, I'm sure. But I'm afraid, while you've got bad guys like that, unless you're willing to go in with a really big stick, you've got to partition it. Then we move on to something that I genuinely don't believe is true. In the Daily Mail, they are predicting the end of the telephone landline.
Because you are the last person left in Britain
I am the last person left in Britain.
You just have to throw stones at your window if you want to get in touch with you in the future.
It's like 28 days later for me. I walk out and I'm the only one with a landline. They're saying that people don't consider it an important part of their life any longer. But, of course, I know people don't
get it free with broadband.
That's the point.
You still have to pay BT.
You're paying your line.
That's true.
That's where the big lump of the cost comes.
That's true.
15 quid to BT, 5 quid to somebody else. It's infuriating.
That's true. That's true.
But it's the fact of the matter is, young people are saying we prefer smartphones to the landline. We don't even use it. It's gathering dust. Blah blah blah.
Do you have an answer phone on your mobile?
Yes.
You see, that ages you, because young people don't have answer phones. They miss call and they call their friend back. So
I don't want
if
to
you
speak
leave
to
a
the people that
message
call me.
with anyone 25, they will never ever call you back because they don't listen to their answer.
All right.
But the point is, in an emergency, all your mobile phones will go down, and I'll be the only person left with the landline.
Having a conversation with you were right about this, weren't you? Yes, I was.
I'll be the only one phoning 999 just for a chat.
Well, the trouble is, when you phone 99, you're going to get the police, and this leads nicely.
The next story is in the Telegraph, and the Hertfordshire Police have decided they had a little Twitter campaign during the World Cup, which is still ongoing, obviously. And they've been doing stuff like when Nigeria were playing, they happened to mention at the end that, if you know of anybody who's committed any fraud, please contact. With Colombia, it was drugs. With Bosnia-Herzegovina, they were mentioning about rural crime, which I didn't know they were big for, so farmers in this country.
Oh, there's a hint of the prejudice about those tweets.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I did see this story yesterday, and I did laugh a little bit.
Do we know what they tweeted when England were briefly on?
I don't think they had time to tweet. They didn't get to the 140th character and we were out. Oh, all right.
OK, one last one, quick one.
And the last one is from, again, a Telegraph, and this is The Who. They're beginning a tour which they're calling their Long Goodbye.
50th anniversary, isn't it?
Yeah. Roger Daltrey saying that they've decided at 70... and 69 for Pete Townsend.
Don't
They're
film
too
it.
old.
So they're good for. So
Yeah,
they're
and
going to
they're
stop
asking
it.
people not to film the gigs. They can't. I agree with this. I don't understand why you would want to
Not
watch
because
it
you're
like that.
stealing their property, but because you're not in the moment.
You're not there.
taking part.
You're looking.
Again,
You're looking
that
at a
makes them sound
phone.
like granddads more than anything else, doesn't it?
Somebody else told me earlier on when the crew, they said that they go now with iPads and hold them up. I mean, quite
Led Zeppelin,
frankly,
a one-off reform, you know, they're never going to do it again, one-off, and most
you're
of the audience
looking
is doing that. Oh, it's great.
Why?
And you knew the
Why?
DVD was going to work by
copy on.
Christmas.
We had rough copy on yesterday. After the show, when it came time to go home, they took. There was I've never seen the mobile phone.
No, but that's fine.
Guys,
That's
we're going to carry on with this during the
Sorry.
break, after which we're going to find out whether or not you should cry in front of your kids.